MSMEs Access to Finance, Role of Digital Payments, which will be moderated by Osborne Saldanha, Emphasis Ventures. For the panel, I would like to call upon our stage Ameet Venkeshwar, LoanTap Financial Technology, Anurag Agarwal, FingPay, Anand Kumar Bajaj, PayNearby, and Yogesh Patwari, Credible. Can we please have a great round of applause? Sir, please. Over to you, Mr. Saldanha. Thank you.
Check. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Osborne Saldanha. I'm with Emphasis Ventures. The VC in the room, the only one without a suit on this panel. So I think we'll request the rest of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll get going with the session for today.
Thanks, Osborne. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yogesh Patwari, and I represent Credible today. I'll quickly introduce myself and then my company. I take care of the platforms business at Credible, and before joining here, was a career banker. Worked across multinational banks in corporate banking, treasury, and trade finance. Credible, I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about us, is one of India's largest supply chain financing and digital lending platforms. We enable financing for about 300,000 small businesses in our platform today. And we clock a throughput of about, let's say, 4,000 crores every month. This is a mix of large mandates run for large enterprises, plus digital lending done for smaller businesses. We also help banks build technology and build their tech stacks to basically run digital financing mandates for them.
I'm Anand Kumar Bajaj. I'm part of Nearby Technologies, PayNearby, and we are railroads into the hinterland of Bharat with about 1 million plus retailers serving 260 million citizens. We process just about short of $1 billion every month in sachetized financial services. That's the base, and we believe that we are DaaS, distribution as a service. We have last year we have started partnering with players, providers who need to reach to the last mile, actually the first mile where the life starts. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Ameet Venkeshwar. I work with LoanTap Technologies. LoanTap Technology is the fintech arm which has in-house NBFCs, which is into consumer lending, personal loans, and we have one exclusive NBFC, which is a green NBFC, where we fund electric two-wheelers. We have been dominant in the field of personal lending, where product innovation has been our key. This year, the focus has moved to the MSME sector, and new railroads have been built in terms of supply chain finance and maximizing on the delivery side of it.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Anurag Agarwal. I am from FingPay. FingPay provides financial services to the underserved population. So we provide banking correspondent solutions to the rural markets of India. We work also with several NBFCs and MFIs, wherein we provide collection solutions for them. And we process just a little short of $1 billion worth of transactions annually. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for that introduction, each of you. It's weird that I didn't know about the kind of distribution that each of you all had, the kind of processing that in terms of payments that each of you did per year. So thanks for talking about that as well. Just to set some context for today's conversation, I think we're discussing on this panel MSMEs and digitizing them. As a question to each of the gentlemen over here, I think a lot of people have been proclaiming that kirana tech is dead, or digitizing small businesses is not a viable business anymore, and so many such other provocative statements in a sense. But clearly, I think each of these gentlemen have their own story to tell. So I want to ask, maybe starting with you, Yogesh, is digitizing small businesses dead? And why is now sort of the best time to to digitize these small businesses and bring them to formal financial services in a sense?
Short answer, no. So I wouldn't. It seems only I'm having difficulty with the mic. So, no, I don't think kirana tech or digitalizing small businesses is not a viable option. In fact, it is need of the hour, right? So a lot of things have happened over the last few years, which have actually accelerated small businesses' journey to digitalize their entire operations, and which then also comes to the topic of our conversation today on how they're increasingly becoming, uh, increasingly being able to provide digital records for financiers to be able to underwrite and assess their creditworthiness, right? So small businesses have realized this. Governments have taken a lot of initiatives, both central and state governments, and at the same time, small businesses have realized that they cannot go back to the old ways, right, where a lot of cash settlements were happening, record keeping was poor, they were not using digital payments. Uh, Also, what accelerated all of this was COVID. I think the pandemic was not kind to a lot of us, but one thing that happened because of the pandemic is technology was adopted like never before. So small businesses started using digital payments as the go-to option, right? And as I mentioned, governments took a lot of initiatives. Digital payments are practically free. The settlements happen instantly. So they've started using digital payments more and more. Now, coming back to your question, Osborne, kirana tech, probably it wasn't viable in the original avatar, but increasingly what we need to start doing is package what we bring to the small businesses in a way in which they see value in it, and then try and generate a revenue generating model around it, right? So for example, we're not very active in this space, but what we do have a small super app for SMEs and MSMEs, where we have put together a lot of solutions that these small businesses can use to basically do their payments management, bank account reconciliation. It has an embedded credit module. They can use it for invoicing. So in a way, we are trying to use what we used to earlier call kirana tech, and put a model around it which small businesses can value and then accordingly pay for it, right?
Yeah, it's a matter of perspective. When we say Har Dukan Digital Pradhan, that means that it's all about the kirana store, the 211 households on an average nationally mapped to a retailer nearby. The banks are far away, the insurer is gone off to doze, and the mutual funds are nowhere in sight. So it's the retailer who is nearby you, who has been trusting you with credit, you have been trusting him with your grocery supply. And how wonderful it is to say 2 kilo आलू 1 kilo प्याज 500 रुपये कैश देना भैया 30 रुपये की FD बना देना 100 रुपये का इंश्योरेंस कर देना just at the same shop. Well, you not, but others have been doing mobile recharge for $100, $20 at the same store. How different is financial services if you compare from mobile recharge? It's putting money in your bank, recharging your account, yeah, or you swipe a card and withdraw cash or pay a merchant. It is as easy that you go and swipe it like an ATM and get access to your cash. This is not relevant for you. Actually, I say that I make sweets for non-diabetic friends, because the services that we do, at least few of us, is relevant for people outside this room, him and the two more friends around outside. The fact that a customer feels intimidated when rubbing shoulders with you at an ATM means that there is a mental seclusion. And if at a kirana store, she is able to get a financial service or save money, that is the kirana tech that we are talking about. Having said that, 1 million plus retailers in 17,000 postal codes as neural network to the Bharat with a two-way transmission protocol, where you relay the services and you get back the insights back, and then again process your AI engines and bombard another right relevant cross-sell, upsell recommendations products, is what kirana tech we believe is about. To add to it, it's not just about financial services. Financial services has become a footfall augmenter, generator, and credibility augmenter. Because during the 2 years of prolonged lockdown, our government was putting money in the bank account of citizens, But these were the retailers who were giving out the subsidies in the hand of citizens. So their credibility by design has augmented to almost a sovereign grade. कि सरकार का काम कर रहा है ये बंदा. His shelf has no meaning now. उसके मायने बदल गए shelf पे. किराना दुकान पर फुटबॉल बिक रही है, खाद की दुकान पर फ्रॉक. Because we have been able to integrate multiple partners who, like Dwara Sanjeev ji built Dwara Gold, and we were able to take out to the last mile to deposit $10 for a gold deposit. That's the power of Kirana Tech. I think whoever wrote the obituary of his Kirana Tech dead, you should talk about her obituary as well. Because it's just a perspective that you are able to harness. The fact that I was just talking to a friend a while ago in digital marketing that you burn 50 crore and get 100,000 customers and you calculate CAC. Here is my retailer with human intelligence, dump the artificial intelligence, human intelligence. शर्मा जी के लौंडे को बाइक खरीदनी है, गुप्ता जी की बेटी की शादी है, और सराफ जी को छोटा घर बनाना है. That intelligence insights accumulated and pushed to a partner bank has a very, very different calling and impact on the last mile. That's what probably I see as a perspective on Kirana Tech. But thank you.
Appreciate it. Ameet?
So I'll just pick up from both of you guys. Very rightly said, Kirana Tech as an individual platform doesn't make any sense in terms of revenue building and adding value to it. What pandemic has done is given us a rail trail in terms of insights, what the bank or a financier looks at, why they were shying away to lending to these guys. They give us a replacement to that, right? What goes in, what's coming out, what is his habits in terms of spending and buying. That makes it much more viable to design something and give him products which are manageable, which he can do. And that's the opportunity where it can be built and you can have your revenue. The second point is, yes, Sharma ji ke londe ko bike leni hai, isko ye leni hai. Why can't it be like a stack of products, right? Why can't it be like, okay, he wants to pay a bill, that limit is available, pay his bill, right? He gets his money every day, that's the outflow. So it's giving him that convenience, that stack at one place where he doesn't have to move out. And same way they treat their customer, they are going to be loyal if somebody gives that kind of. So it's a product which has a lot of offering, and I think it's there to stay.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything is covered. I echo the same feelings as Mr. Bajaj had. Just to add one more point, the Kirana, as they all said, has a huge context, which is probably not even anywhere near the it's far richer than the AI engines of today. Plus the trust the neighborhoods have on the Kirana, which actually makes it very unique and much more forefront than any other stuff. So, yeah.
Thanks for that. Insightful responses. I think what I want to touch upon next is we all know broadly that there are 60 million plus small businesses in the country. There are probably more Kirana stores in the country. And all those high level numbers we are all aware of, right? But when it comes to the actual small business or the Kirana that is there at our neighborhood, what are the kinds of problems that they face when trying to digitize maybe their operations or even their payment acceptance? I think if you could maybe start, Anand, that would be helpful.
If there is a solution, everything looks like a problem. And trust me, the fact that everyone thinks a Kirana needs a loan for the business, he has enough distributors giving that overdraft to them or a cash discount. I see this more as an opportunity with the awakening of the digitization that has come in, with the line of credit getting to ride on the lines of payment is an opportunity. And more important, the ONDC pipe opening up now to Uttishta Bharata, the online network for digital commerce, where you are able to make everything available to everyone at every place, is the exciting part of the game from here. The fact that we process 1 million plus transactions every day, there is terabytes of data that we have, and we, for example, have created something called Bharosa Score, credibility score. The retailers that we work with are new to credit, and Satyam, or you would have not given a loan otherwise than for a credit score. But we are here partnering with them to see how we can leverage the pseudo data of the fact that 50 customers come to this retailer was never known or never digitized. Today here we are with the transaction flows. It's all digitized, all available, recency, concurrency, frequency, growth, product per retailer. There are parameters basis which you are able to gauge the credibility of a retailer. The fact that if you had expectation to talk about problems, mic is in the wrong hands. But I'm an entrepreneur, come on, right? And
No, but that's, so my question was more trying to understand, when you are trying to acquire a small business, for example, you've acquired, I think what you said, 1 million or so small businesses, and while going out to acquire those many small businesses, sure, COVID must have played a role in digitizing them or bringing them online for you to calculate or to collect that terabytes of data points, right? But not necessarily payments might be their problem statement, or not necessarily maybe lending is their problem statement. So what are the kinds of problem or hesitancy do you see while trying to acquire those small businesses?
no problem. Again, I'll repeat. The people who have solutions, they see that everything is a problem. The answer remains same. The idea is about augmenting a life journey of a person. You did barter. I mean, our ancestors did barter. There was no cash. We paid in cash. There was no card. The card came and we started paying in UPI. Nothing was broken in the whole value chain. Just because we had an awesome technology and which is so smooth now today, people even wonder what are cards doing now. And are banks re-carding? Sorry if anyone is from the cards business, but I'm not writing the obituary here yet. But a debit card is irrelevant. It is just like you use the NFS auth lanes once and you are done with. You put it in the. I had to find out a checkbook actually during the lockdown to give it to a banker who still insisted कि मेरे को checkbook की copy चाहिए. My son was asking कि है क्या ये वैसे? So with the evolution that you have, things come your way, and we will talk about more down the line that these are all opportunities to augment. But what will get left behind for people who do not change will be a problem, and you will do the obituary for them. What is interesting is that partners like us, if we are able to stand together and go to the mass market and work together in consonance, what all solutions you can take along is the opportunity. Who will be left behind will be left behind, and we will certainly talk.
Yeah, no, I don't want to write anyone's obituary or anything like that. That's not the point of the conversation. But Anurag, you were mentioning to me earlier that you sell to NBFCs and MFIs your tech stack for their collections even, right, at the last mile. Would like for you to talk about the opportunity that you see over there while selling to your NBFC partners or MFI partners as well in digitizing their operations over there.
See, it's very easy to lend, but it's not so easy to collect. And especially if the collection is happening through cash, it's a pain, right? So getting the cash, carrying the risk, reconciliation, crediting to the borrower's account, it's a it's a long process and manual process. And what we have done, working with these partners, is how can we digitize? How can we reduce the cash, right? Ideally, they shouldn't be they should be only digital payments. But through this journey with working with them, we managed to digitize. So see, adoption of anything new is going to be a challenge, and rural market is not an early adopter. But adoption comes when when you see something is working reliably, and then you start using it and you start building trust, right? And then in the process, from trust, you start making digital payments as a preferred option. And then it should evolve into a default option, wherein you're doing only digital payment and nothing else. And how do you make it easy? How do you make it frictionless? And how do you make it how do you make it the perception of the customer should be this is what I want. And we worked with them. We tried creating multiple mechanisms of doing digital payments for NBFC and MFI customers, and we have seen good adoption rate. So the digital payments is growing and growing, And we managed to convert the cash into digital by more than 30-40% today. And we are expecting the growth will continue.
Excellent. That leads me into my next set of questions around payments or payment acceptance for these small businesses, right? Over the past few years, thanks to government, thanks to RBI and all of that, UPI has been brought into other form factors of payments as well. We started initially just with debit. Now it's become allowed for prepaid, it's allowed for credit, and a bunch of other things. So much so that UPI is kind of being thought of as a customer acquisition tool, right? What I wanted to understand from all of you over here is, are your small businesses or your kiranas and all of those demanding for digital payments and more specifically asking for UPI-based payment acceptance? And what do you see as their sort of demands and solutions that they are requesting for these days? I think, Yogesh, if you'd like to maybe start there.
So I think this is pretty much linked to the earlier question, right? So I think probably you need to move the mic the other way. So I won't talk about problems, especially after what I think Anand mentioned, but clearly the advantages of using digital payments far outweigh any concerns, hesitation or problems small businesses may have faced earlier. So now I don't think it's really being considered as a viable option anymore to go back to the earlier model where there was more of cash, no record keeping, pretty much trying to be outside the formal economy. So small businesses, including kirana stores, have realized the advantages of being part of the formal economy, and plus I think government is trying to make sure that it is also extremely difficult if somebody is trying to, let's say, move away from digital payments, etc. I mean, there are other regulations around GST reporting, etc., etc. So I think, as I mentioned, this is not an option anymore. Customers will require, digital payment as probably the default option, both while making payments and collections. It makes a whole lot of other processes which are part of their business a lot easier. Now, when we talk specifically about retailers, they don't really have an option. Some customers may still, pay using cash, etc., at least for the small value purchases, right? But everybody is pretty comfortable using digital payments for their collections. A lot of them may insist on digital payments, as we go to slightly larger retailers or small businesses, SMEs, MSMEs. So, for example, the lending that we do from our NBFC, a large part of our underwriting process is based on transaction history. Because we don't have a lot of credit history available for these small businesses. So, and we've not seen any hesitation from the borrowers that we have on our books in sharing their transaction data with us, in giving us access to third-party databases, which could help us assess the kind of cash flows that their business has been generating. So I think it's pretty much the model going forward. I don't see us going back to an era where we will be concerned about digital payments.
Yeah, and I fully echo your thoughts. The fact that digital payment has become a compulsion in rural than beyond fashion. Earlier, people used to flash a debit card, but it's become a compulsion. And the network effect caught on the COVID helped propel because people were shy of using cash, and hence it took off. The merchants who did not know, the consumers taught them because there was no hardware required. So a lot of things, पूरी कायनात की साजिश थी. और साथ में गवर्नमेंट ने MDR 0 कर दिया, so that further helped go beyond, and it is the largest government-driven program today, NPCI-driven program, Reserve Bank-driven program, that at the cost of a minor MDR has swelled the GST for the nation so much because the transparency came ahead, right? With all the digital payments, you were able to do lending with the data transfers that was available. And I agree, there is no way going forward. It's like people outside that we speak to, the youth who has come onto the payments first time, don't even know what a debit card was used for or what a POS machine ever was. So that's the power of the leapfrogging. The nation which bought mobile phone rather than a landline, or which watches YouTube and stuff on the mobile rather than a television does payment directly on UPI. So the next generation is all skimmed and ready for the next.
Fascinating that we've leapfrogged POS machines as well. Maybe the right way to go ahead. But Ameet, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, I think blessing in disguise, I know not the right thing, but what COVID does have done is that it has given trust to this merchants, kiran merchants in the rural area and all, who were shying away from doing any kind of transaction and payments, right? There was no other option than to accept and make payments digitally. When that started happening, they've opened up to it. Today, we operate with multiple partners having access to about 5 lakh plus retailer merchants. I don't see any disconnect where the merchant wants to make payment in cash, we are collecting in cash or anything. They are all open, they want all the options to make the payment digitally. They don't prefer even a traditional NAT system or a check system, they want to keep it on the UPI. They are more comfortable over there. So that's the kind of change we are looking at.
Yeah, I think see, digital payments is not a desire. It's become a hygiene factor. You don't have it. It's very difficult to run business these days. And thanks to the government, the UPI has been done really well. The contactless payments, the seamlessness of the transaction, and also continuous innovation, which is improving the user experience. Wherein a retail merchant who's busy, who wants to know that the payment has been made, there's an audio feedback that says so much of money has been credited to your account, without having to worry about it's hands free, eyes free, so if you look at the kind of innovation and the results that UPI has given to the public, it's no less of an innovation so if you look at what television has done, it's what mobility has done, mobile phones have done, what internet has done. UPI has been something like that in the payments arena.
Excellent. And again, just double clicking on this then, with the digital payments that all of you are saying that small businesses are demanding and it's become default now, with all of that payments data, are you able to do other financial services distribution as well to that small business? Because, I mean, the reason I ask this is, aside from it being the topic of today, a lot of businesses in the past have tried using POS machine data or digital payment data to cross-sell maybe lending products or other financial products as well, right? And it hasn't taken off in the way we anticipated or we expected it to be, right? Do you think that has changed today? If you'd like to, Ameet, maybe you could start. What has changed today that enables you to distribute other financial products as well? Maybe starting with credit, and then if you're able to do other financial products as well. And what do you see going forward as the opportunity to start with payments as core and then doing other financial products as well? So Ameet, and then maybe Yogesh can go.
So we all have been talking about the rail trail, right? What it creates when we are talking about digital payments. So for lending, it is imperative that we have an insight in terms of understanding the cash flow. And what has happened in past also, we have seen a lot of players coming in, trying out. One of the example is POS machines, where MSME looks a prime sector, 60 million users, which can be converted into loans. It looks a easy play, right? But have that gone right? Maybe not. The reason for that is the structure of the product, reading the data right. So you have to understand this, guys who are running kirana store and all are operating on a certain margins. There could be an event in family, a wedding, somebody going hospitalized, and the funds goes for a toss. So you need to have products which are aligned to that. So it needs to be maybe a closed loop and all. Maybe the product that needs to be designed is on daily payments. What is the specific requirement of that particular domain needs to be targeted. The data that is flowing in gives you a complete insight in terms of his transactions, his buying behavior, and his sales, cash flow. Basis that, if you can structure the product. And what is helping today is, we were discussing on channel finance, the traditional way of distribution, right? The trade credit, which is the backbone of this particular business. Today, distributor, retailer, wholesaler, even the brands do not want to invest or block their capital in terms of giving this credit. They want to maximize on that by giving this credit to the NBFCs who can manage and run the show. This has helped in a big way in terms of structuring this product, which helps the retailers to buy and prove their creditworthiness. Once they get into a traditional way of credit, that can be upgraded into loans, smaller loans, which can be required for their business expansion, which can be used for their personal needs, which was missing earlier. Either it was normal trade credit or limited loans. Now this has moved into a different direction. With this data, those kind of loans are also possible for these retailers.
I think Ameet has broadly covered what's changing on the underwriting side, right? In terms of how models are evolving, which help us underwrite credit for small businesses using digital payment history. To just answer your question, would we say that the digital payments, structuring broader solutions, including lending around digital payments, has not really scaled up in India? I don't agree with that. I think we have been following a gradual, approach towards scaling this up. There were some hiccups. Underwriting models have evolved. I think Ameet spoke about how currently we are looking at doing this, right? Another major shift that is happening now is banks have typically shied away from this segment in the past, right? And banks still remain the largest capital providers in the country. Common misconception is that fintechs compete with banks when we try and lend into this space, but that's not how it works. Now we are seeing fintechs collaborate with banks, help them understand this segment better, let them use technology which can let the banks develop their own underwriting models, sometimes work jointly to co-lend in this segment. So increasingly we'll see banks coming and participating in this segment, which will obviously accelerate the growth of digital lending, plus then the other products will automatically come. So I think the pace has been decent. We'll see probably exponential growth going forward. There were some errors that happened along the way, but I think we are doing a course correction. I think.
Anand or Anurag, you want to add to this?
Just punctuate that I don't relate to this, why I will explain that a debit card with zero MDR, a UPI with zero MDR is being considered for loan transaction processing. There is no skin in the game of a retailer actually, if you see. The fact that one can do transactions without cost suffering when you have a credit card, it's understandable. When you have a debit card with a MDR, it was understandable, but it's when this whole new regime of changeover happened, there were lenders with POS receivable who went for a toss because they did not discount the debit card flows. UPI had not picked up at that time. And today the people who have done with the UPI, probably I'm told they are grown on the losses higher than the wallet payment providers as well. So that's the lacuna. I think that's what you were referring to, the errors probably. Yeah.
Sure. I think last few questions and then we'll allow you all to go for lunch and all of that. But one other question I had is around regulation. In whatever, actually most of us in this room are trying to do, regulation touches whatever we want to do. Banking partnerships, licenses and all of that also touches whatever we want to do. A lot of us are always also saying, as founders, as investors, as product builders and all of that, we're also saying we want regulation. Regulation brings clarity to our operations, whether it is on the NBFC side, whether it is on the KYC side. With KYC regulations constantly changing, it's been a challenge for most to onboard digitally and things like that, right? To each of the panelists over here today, I wanted to understand if you have or if you want to comment on it, because it's a touchy subject, but what is a dream regulation that you have or that you want for your operations or for your sector that will truly give it that exponential growth that you are seeking in building what you are building?
Yes, I'll go first, given that I have the mic with me. So I don't have a very strong view here. I think a lot of innovation and government initiatives is already happening, right? We still have a lot of new initiatives that the government has started, and we've not even seen how those help us in scaling up digital payments or digital lending. So we have the account aggregator framework, Open, ONDC, and a whole lot of other initiatives are now currently being unveiled or scaling up. I would assume this would already lead to a dramatic shift in the way we run our business today. And each of us will have to probably figure out how we use some of these government initiatives to transform the way we run our business. Otherwise, we may see, another player who comes and probably uses this and runs ahead, right? I don't, at this point in time, I don't know a view around what could be better than what we already have.
See, Nandan said that innovation will lead regulation, and that's a fact because regulation is a stock of ethical mindset of with a lot of governance at an extent moment. Technology evolves, and hence, when the black meets white, there is a gray created. With every evolution of opportunity, there would be a gray coming up. There would be new business models which will come up. But keeping in mind the past regulation and the जो तासीर है उसकी जो texture है regulator के mindset जो हैं, that has to be imbibed. And I think there is nothing beyond the law of land. And a regulator is doing what they are doing is awesome. I think the governance being brought in, and I would for a moment say that regulation is coming after the innovation because the models have gone far too ahead. And that's where the regulator says that if you have been given a license to drive a cycle, don't fly a plane. So that differentiation we have to keep in our own mind, but nothing beats the regulation. We have to be submissive to the larger thought process.
I think rightly mentioned the changes that are happening in the regulatory framework is keeping in mind the consumer, right? The usage. If anything goes wrong over there, ultimately we are going to lose out. So we have to also come and get aligned to it. Maybe, as Anand mentioned, we are way ahead and then the regulations are coming in. So we are not able to adapt to that change. And we are saying, oh, this is disruptive. But the fact is, some of us has gone way too ahead. It is time that we come along and take everyone along.
Yeah, I also echo the same thing, regulation is needed. And see, it should enable innovation and it should empower startups. At the same time, it should regulate the outcome.
If I may chime into my own question. I've actually been a fanboy of RBI for the longest time, and I actually believe that fintech is the only sector where regulation actually is ahead of innovation. Where I believe that innovation is playing a catch-up game with regulators, and regulators have always been step by step with innovation, in my view. The recent regulations that have come in the past year itself shows that RBI is putting its ear on the ground and is actually proactive in doing whatever it's doing. And so a lot of what you all said, actually I agree with, that there is already guardrails in place, there is already regulations in place. It's just up to all of us doing things in these spaces where I think we are just given the opportunity now, and it's up to us, I guess, to do the best we can and bring in all these small businesses.
Just to punctuate, which regulator in the world has ever stood up saying, regulatory review board, come and review my guidelines? Which regulator has stood up saying, I have a sandbox, come and experiment with us? It's fantastic. The Committee for Deepening of Digital Payment was a fantastic platform for the whole industry to bring out those recommendations. Kudos.
Yeah, no, fully agree. I think just last question, or rather concluding thoughts, if I may. What keeps you all optimistic and hopeful about digitizing and bringing finance to small businesses over this next decade?
I think the answers to all the questions today, in summary, create a vision which is quite optimistic, right? In terms of how small businesses have changed the way they're working, how they appreciate, digitalizing their entire bookkeeping, transaction processing, etc. And how, it's already started happening and probably it'll happen more in the next couple of years, how they will start seeing the fruits of doing, all this digitally, right? How other products, access to lending, access to other products becomes a lot easier for them going forward. So I think as I mentioned earlier, there's no going back, right? So this is something which is going to stay. Uh, it's up to us now how we can use the initiative that already been taken, to the best of for us to build successful businesses and for us to help MSMEs get access to finance and other products.
What excites us is to go beyond the digital savvy greedy segment, the 10% of us, the digitized, to the 90% of the marginalized and subsidized Bharat. To be able to bring the high end of technology to the bottom of the pyramid is what excites us. The fact that we can granularize, digitize, and universalize the services through this million retail touch points to 260 million plus citizens excites us. The fact that many of you here are partners who come with lending pipe or with varieties of lending pipes, with varieties of insurance manufacturing, with investment products that you come along. So we genuinely believe that the life of a Das is very fulfilling, distribution as a service, when you connect and harness. Otherwise, we are just a water. We are actually going to hit a dam जिसमें वो ताकत हो कि हमें से बिजली निकाले. That's the excitement. Otherwise, we'll keep flowing.
I think what keeps us going is that the canvas is too big and there's a lot of learning to happen. Something if you get into traditional way, you end up losing. The best part about being in fintech payment, every day you are living something and you are trying to deliver something to the masses. That's what keeps you going.
Yeah, I think if you look at the current scenario, most of the building blocks are available there. And then what can you do leveraging these building blocks, and how do you make sure that inclusion is there, wherein there is 100% adoption. Today the adoption is there, but how do you get to 100%, and how do you build on top of this? So the payments, then things like account aggregation, ONDC. This is just the beginning of an explosion that is going to happen. So a decade from now, I think we would be looking at the the payments industry totally in a different way. So if you look at what was there 2 decades back and what is there today, a decade from now would probably give you that same kind of experience.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to all the panelists. I hope we were able to add some value to how you're thinking about small businesses, digitizing them, and providing financial opportunities. So thanks, and the panel will be available for questions later if you want to meet them one-on-one. Thank you, everyone.